till a Challenger space shuttle engineer, Alan McDonald, raised safety concerns against the wishes of his employer and NASA. He was ignored. A fatal accident resulted. When McDonald spoke out, he was demoted by his company. Congress stepped in to help him. He later taught ethical decision-making, so he went on to demolish the post-accident cover-up and risk his livelihood and career. When he interrupted the testimony of NASA officials before the Rogers Commission to give his account of what happened, that is a noble act of selflessness. Had an engineering professor who was an accident investigator on Challenger. She uses the accident as an example of a common phenomenon in hierarchies, mainly when an issue is passed up the chain of command. It gets less severe by the time warnings reach decision makers. None of them understood the full significance. Related. The slides engineers used to present the O-ring issue are still used in the aerospace industry as object lessons for how not to present safety-critical information. Basically, loss of spacecraft should not be a bullet point buried several pages in. If loss of life is a possibility, that should be your main point and the first thing you discuss. The amount of courage it takes to not only refuse to sign that dotted line despite intense pressures, and then to speak and interject before a presidential commission. It must be so painful to know what's about to happen but have all the decision makers above you overrule you and your expertise. Greater than, my God, Thiokol, when do you want me to launch? Next April? The next day the shuttle blew up. Several engineers had safety concerns regarding the space shuttle. Roger Boisjoli wrote a famous memo that basically said, the solid rocket boosters are badly designed, and if we don't fix them now, people will die. 6 months later, the boosters remained unfixed, and 7 people died as a result. This is why I have no sympathy for people who complain about safety warnings and regulations. Every single one is written in blood. Economist Michael Hausman used data from 30,000 employees to find correlations between their preferred browser and job performance. Employees who used Firefox Chrome stay 15% longer and were 19% less likely to miss work and had happier customers than employees who used IE or Safari. They also tested whether it was because Firefox Chrome users were more tech-savvy. They did this by having them all take a computer proficiency test which tested keyboard shortcuts, hardware knowledge, and typing speed. They were roughly equal, however. The conclusion they made was that the default browser was IE, Windows, or Safari, Mac. So Firefox and Chrome users had to manually switch browsers. Their employees who took the initiative to change browsers were better employees and approached their job differently than people who were fine with IE or Safari. Anyway, it was their reasoning. They noted it was not a real study, just using the data of their 30K employees to make observations. The true reason may not be that. New hiring practice for interns, give them a computer with IE, McAfee antivirus that has expired with the notification on, and set the default homepage to MSNBC. Keep whoever fixes 2/3 issues. So he says, smart people use Firefox and uBlock Origin. Lazy people use pre-installed browsers. My gut feeling would be that if you're more satisfied and committed to a job, then you are more likely to download and install the browser you prefer. If you don't feel strongly committed and aren't feeling like staying, then you'll just use whatever's already installed. I don't like Chrome, and Firefox blocks stuff better than Edge or Safari. Always liked Firefox. Using a Mac, and while Safari isn't horrible, it isn't as flexible on add-ons as Firefox is. Greater than employees who used Firefox Chrome stay 15% longer and were 19% less likely to miss work and had happier customers than employees who used IE or Safari. In 2016, What if I use Netscape? Till, the wandering whore, was the first guidebook about the city's prostitutes that circulated in London beginning in 1661. Even though it was actually a guide, it was written as if it was meant to instruct the law-abiding citizens how to avoid the prostitutes wandering. This is a pretty common way to avoid liability. Include detailed instructions but claim they are being provided to avoid the illegal activity, like the malt extract that was sold during Prohibition. By providing the information that you should not leave this to sit for a week and you definitely shouldn't add yeast to it or else you could create beer. 1660s Mac. There are prostitutes in London? How horrible. Where are they? So I know what areas to avoid? Man of Pleasure's calendar doesn't exactly scream, avoid. I need a good list of all the places I should avoid in my local area. Rated by debauchery and seediness. Title Gore. Holy shit. TIL that the architect Raphael Vignoli designed 2 buildings that caused death rays. One in Las Vegas and one in London. I also love that there was a lawsuit against one of his buildings for being comically phallic. But it's literally a tall rectangle. Greater than he agreed with the building's developers that the sun was too high in the sky on that particular day. What? https en.wikipedia.org/wiki/20_Fenchurch_street #carbuncle_award https en.wikipedia.org/wiki/20_Fenchurch_street #carbuncle_award. The guy sounds like a buffoon. A buffoon building massive buildings with lots of people in them. Excuse me sir, but that building is melting your Jaguar. He's just beta testing for his final project. To take out James Bond. That's the face of a man who said, and I'll fucking do it again. Quote, I remember hearing about a super energy efficient office building that was built with glass windows that reflected heat instead of transmitting or absorbing it. Unfortunately, the building across the road had its power bills skyrocket because of all the reflected sunlight.